faster than for all these years. I make too many mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I had a little sheet of paper so I could write things down too, but
I'm sorry.
You have all sorts of paper in your house. You
I
can write
do.
it down anyway.
I don't have a list of questions.
You don't. That's true.
I'll see if I can copy. I'll see if I can take a picture of it and send it to you later so you can fill in the blanks.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
Hey, we're in Matthew 27, starting at verse 15.
15 and 16.
Yes, 15 and 16.
Okay, let's read. Matthew 27, 15 and 16. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted. And they had set then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas.
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 Okay, so the question is, what does Pilate customarily do at the Passover feast?
Release a patient or prisoner.
Yes, that's right. He usually releases one. In Roman law, the imperial magistrate could acquit a prisoner who's not yet condemned or pardon one who is already condemned. I guess it's similar to governors and the president there in the States. He can pardon prisoners. And so he releases Barabbas. Now, Barabbas is an insurrectionist. That means somebody who was fighting against the government. In other words, him and Pilate would not see eye to eye because they would have been involved in battles against each other. But to the Judeans, Barabbas would have been a hero, much like the Maccabees when they fought against the foreign power. Barabbas would have been considered a hero because he's fighting against the foreign power of Rome. Okay. I should also tell you that probably at this time, Pilate has already gotten his army to prepare the three crosses, right? Because when Jesus gets crucified, there's going to be three of them. And it seems that one of them was for Barabbas. But Jesus is going to take the place of Barabbas. And Barabbas had murdered people as well. You'll find that in Mark 15, verse 7, that he had murdered people. He wasn't just an insurrectionist. He went beyond that. Okay, we have to jump around a little bit because the account is kind of separated into the four Gospels. So let's go to Luke 23.
I just started Luke.
Yeah.
I start reading the first chapter tomorrow. Yeah.
Good.
Or no, yeah, tomorrow.
So what you've read so far, have you seen the correlation between Matthew and Mark and into Luke?
Literally, yeah.
John.
You're going to see a lot of corresponding stuff between the four Gospels.
Some of it's identical.
Yeah, pretty much identical. All four of them were there to witness at that time or witness statements at that time. Others were.
Was it Luke and Mark that witness statements and the other two were close?
Okay, so there's two theories. Most modern scholars think that Mark was the first one written, and Mark is an account of Peter's. So he's like, Mark was the guy who followed Peter around and wrote down what Peter said concerning Jesus. So it is an eyewitness account. because of Peter.
Yeah.
So they think that Mark was the first. And then after Mark comes Matthew or Luke. And then the last gospel written is John. That's one view. The view of the church, testified by the church fathers, is that Matthew was the first one written, and then the others were written, and John is the last. Luke tells us that he used accounts. In Luke chapter 1, you'll see he says that he uses other accounts because Luke is a physician who is following some of the disciples around and gathering all this information to write Luke and to write Acts.
Yeah.
The two of them. So one is the first treatise, the second. Acts is the second treatise.
So here's a question: which of the four gospels was actually an apostle?
Which of the four gospels?
Were apostles?
I thought it was Matthew and John.
Yes.
Wow.
But Mark is Peter's account.
Mark is not an apostle, was not an apostle, and Luke was not an apostle.
So who was it then, Paul?
It was Matthew and John were both apostles of Christ.
Okay, so Luke
Still two.
23, starting at verse 13, I'll read it.
Okay.
Pilate then called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was misleading the people. And after examining him before you, behold, I did not find this man guilty of any of your charges against him. Neither did Herod, for he sent him back to us. Look, nothing deserving death has been done by him. I will therefore punish and release him." So,
Mine says flogged.
what's that?
Mine says he was flogged.
Flogged. Punished, yeah, flogged. That's right. Scourged, same thing. What was Jesus accused of doing?
Well, in this encounter, he's just accused of misleading the people.
Right.
Basically, the temple called it blasphemy.
Mine says he was accused of leading a revolt.
Yes, that's right. Inciting a crowd to go after the Romans, right? What is Pilate's opinion of Jesus?
Innocent, innocent, innocent.
Yes, nothing deserving of death. He's totally innocent. Okay, let's go back to Matthew. 2 books back. Matthew 27 again. And we're at verse 17. If somebody can read from verse 17 to 25.
As the crowds gathered before Pilate's house that morning, he asked them, "Which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" He knew very well that the religious leaders had arrested Jesus out of envy. Just then, as Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him this message: "Leave that innocent man alone. I suffered through a terrible nightmare about him last night." Ooh. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas to be released and for Jesus to be put to death. So the governor asked again, "Which of these two do you want me to release to you?" The crowd shouted back, "Barabbas."
Yep, to verse 25. Keep going.
Oh, Pilate responded, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." "Why?" Pilate demanded. "What crime has he committed?" But the mob roared even louder, "Crucify him." Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere and that a riot was developing, so he sent for a bowl of water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. The responsibility is yours." And all the people yelled back, "We will take responsibility for his death, we and our children."
Thank you. Okay, Pilate asked, do you want Barabbas or Jesus released? Whom do they pick?
Barabbas released.
Barabbas.
Yeah. It's not a good thing when the crowd is so wrong.
And it just amazes me that not a week earlier they had been praising him and lauding him as he comes into the city, having his glorious arrival, all the palm fronds, all the cloaks on the ground. And then in less than a week, they turn around this way.
Yeah, this is probably a different crowd. We'll
Maybe.
get to that here. Number 7, but we're not there yet. What's motivating the Jewish leadership to kill Jesus?
Envy.
Envy. What are they envious of?
Everybody's following Jesus because he's doing miracles.
Exactly. They're all asking about him, not about the chief priest or the high priest. They're asking about Jesus. So Pilate takes it that these guys are envious of Jesus because he's got so many people following him. What effect does the dream by Pilate's wife have on the various groups? The groups
None.
are the chief priests, elders, etc., the religious leaders, the crowd, Pilate. What effect does her dream have on them?
I don't think any.
Except for Pilate.
Yeah, I'm with you, Anita. I don't think any. There's nobody listening to her. Yeah. Okay, so why is the crowd there? And here we'll get to Pastor Matt's question concerning the crowds. Why is the crowd there? This particular crowd.
I always thought that maybe they were brought by the priests and the
Some would have been. You're right. Some would have been because
slaves.
they had just had the trial there at Caiaphas, so all those people would have gone, right?
Mhm.
But then there's another group there as well.
So the chief priests, they got the crowd there so then the crowd could help convince Pilate to crucify Jesus, right?
Okay, some of the crowd would have been that, yes.
Some wanted to release Barabbas, that's what it was.
The others came for Barabbas. That's right. They knew that customarily they let one go. So they're coming for Barabbas. And the chief priests managed to convince these people Barabbas, but crucify Jesus, right? Yeah. So what's the irony in all of this? This choosing of Barabbas.
Well, if you think of Jesus as being punished for supposedly causing an uprising against the Romans, where Barabbas is causing an uprising against the Romans.
Yes.
And he caused death to do the government.
Yeah. Isn't it also ironic that they're choosing Barabbas, who is a murderer, right? And an arsonist, which is the very things that they've accused Jesus of doing as well, inciting out. There's irony there as well. Okay, what does the washing of hands signify?
He knows he's doing something wrong.
He does. Yes. But by washing his hands, what's he doing?
Washing off innocent blood.
Yeah. Not my responsibility.
No longer.
Yours. And so the people say, yes, it's our responsibility. The blood be on us and on our children, they say, right? So the responsibility will be with us,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, now this was not a Roman rite. Even though Pilate hated Jews, he picks up this washing of hands thing from the Jews. Like the Jews were supposed to be ceremonially clean, so before a meal they would wash their hands and these kinds of things. We do it for hygienic reasons, but they did it for ceremonial religious reasons. Okay.
We also do it if we don't want to take responsibility for anything. We wash our hands with the whole thing.
Yes, we have that phrase, don't we?
Yep.
Still use it, but we get that from here, right?
Right.
Passage. Yeah, we say, oh, that guy washed his hands of it. Even though, he's responsible for it. So, although he thinks he's not responsible anymore, Pilate is responsible still. Yeah.
After releasing over.
So
He could have denied it.
he could have. He could have.
He could have denied it.
He could have said, "Okay, you can have Barabbas," right? And he could have said, "But I'm not killing Jesus either because I don't find anything guilty in him." So they'll both,
I'll just flog him and send him out of the city.
right. Okay, so why flog or scourge Jesus when you think he's innocent? What's going on here? What's Pilate doing?
Trying to appease the people.
He is. Yeah. Yeah.
maintaining his power and showing alignment with the Jewish people.
Yeah. He's trying this new strategy, right? If I can beat up Jesus enough, maybe that'll satisfy the religious leaders and he can go, Barabbas can go, right? Maybe there'll be a little sympathy and they won't want to crucify him. They'll just release him. Now, concerning the flogging, there are three kinds of floggings in the Roman world. The first one is the fustigatio. You want to try saying that? Fustigatio?
Fustigatio.
Fustigatio. Yeah,
Fustigatio.
this was a light whipping because you had done some minor crime. And then there was another one that was a little bit heavier because your crime was a little bit more serious. And that was called the flagellatio.
Flagellatio.
That's almost Flavio, that one. And then there's the third one, which is, I think, the one that Jesus receives. It's called the verberatio.
Verberatio.
Verberatio was brutal, to say the least. They would strip you down, tie you to a pole. They'd use these whips that had either bones or lead balls or some kind of metal on the end of it, so it would tear your skin after it hit you. And a lot of the people that got verberatio would die right there on the pole. They wouldn't even make it past the pole.
That like a cat of nine tails?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And then the other thing you could do is if you scourge them that way, they wouldn't last as long on the cross. They would die much quicker on the cross if they've been scourged with verberatio. Otherwise, they could be days on the cross. Yeah. I think Jesus receives here the verberatio. He really gets beat up and really bad. Basically, they would whip you until the one with the whip, because there'd be two guys, one on each side, whipping you until they got too tired, and then they would stop. Otherwise, it'd be just whipping, whipping, whipping. Or if the commander said, "Okay, that's enough." So yeah, in Rome, they had professional torturers who would do this, but outside Rome, it was just the soldiers that.
Well, they had to keep him alive and long enough for him to be able to carry his cross.
Right, but they wanted to make sure that he would die before the Sabbath set in.
True.
Why I think there's verberatio here. They're beating him up real good so that he won't last too long. And Jesus didn't last that long on the cross.
You're making me seasick, Anita.
Why?
Because you were rocking.
Have to exercise somehow.
I'm just joking. You're fine.
Okay, let's talk about what's the significance of the crown of thorns? Why did the soldiers put the crown of thorns on him?
He was supposed to be the king.
Yes, it has something to do with the kingship of Jesus. That's right. He is King of the Jews. That's what they've been discussing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what the crown. Now, the one that we usually see looks almost like a victor's crown, like in the Olympics. Back then, you would receive this round thing that goes around your head, right? But it would be soft on your head. And so some people, the traditional look is that Jesus had this round thing of thorns placed on his head. The spikes on those thorns could be as long as about 12 inches. They could be fairly long, these things. And so the idea is that the soldiers spent quite a bit of time putting this together. That's one view. A second view, which is the view that I hold, is that they took the branch with the thorns on it. They made a little ridge on it so it would sit in the head, but it was a full branch and it would come right over the whole head. And they would just push down on it with their swords or whatever. Obviously not their hands because they don't want to get hit by the spikes, but right over the whole head. And that would have pierced through and caused a lot of bleeding and so on.
Ouch.
Yeah. So, crown of thorns. The other thing to understand is there's a significance to thorns. What is so significant about thorns? Okay, when Adam and Eve sin and God curses the ground, what grows up?
Corn.
Thorns and thistles, right? Before that, there were no thorns and thistles. The thorns and thistles come as part of the curse that God places on creation. And so by the Roman soldiers taking this crown of thorns and putting it on his head, it's symbolic of Jesus carrying the curse for us. And that curse will then be eliminated at the end when we have the final state, the new Jerusalem, the new heavens and the new earth. That's the significance of a crown of thorns. He He wore it because he bore not just our sin, but he bore our curse as well. Okay. What about the purple robe?
Royalty.
Royalty again. The whole idea of him being king. Basically, it was a cape that some of the soldiers would wear, and they just took off the cape and they put it around Jesus as the cape, like Batman's cape, right? Take it off. Only this one's purple. Okay, and the third thing is, "Hail, King of the Jews." What's so significant about that?
They're declaring him the king of the Jews, just as he is.
But they mean it as a what?
A mockery.
A mock.
This is sarcastic, yeah.
But God means it as the truth. He is King of the Jews. And so the soldiers would come mockingly, go down on a knee, right? And say, "Hail, King of the Jews." And what did they do to Jesus then?
Clicked on him.
They hit him, yeah. Slapped him or punched him in the head. Okay? Yeah. So what would Jesus look like as Pilate brings him out after all this torture, brings him out and presents him to the Jewish crowd? What's he look like?
A mess.
Yeah, he's a mess. Yeah.
Bloody.
Yes, bloated, bleeding from his head, right? From the thorns. He's beaten up. But the real thing to get here is that he's harmless. He's weak. He's pathetic looking, right? So why would you want, like he's trying to convince the Jews, right? Not to crucify him. Like, why are you so worried about this guy? He's so weak and frail.
Seriously.
Right? Okay, number 13. We're going to look at Leviticus 24, verse 16. Way back in the Old Testament, third book in the Old Testament. So it goes Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus.
Leviticus 14,
24,
24. Now I got to go backwards again. Okay.
verse 16.
Come on, here's 24. Got my pages to separate.
Leviticus has not been read in your Bible.
This is a pretty new Bible.
That's a-
This is a very new Bible, so it doesn't have a lot of use.
Okay, so somebody want to read that? 24, verse 16.
24:16. Go ahead.
Whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone the sojourner as well as the native. When he blasphemes the name, shall be put to death.
It's blasphemes
Blaspheme.
and sojourner.
Sojourner is like a little traveler.
Yes, so you
Be there for a short time and then move on. That's a sojourner. Okay, so this is what's being referred to in verse 7 of the passage that we're looking at. How does this apply to Jesus? Yeah, in verse 7.
Of which book?
Oh, we're in John. Sorry.
Oh,
We're in John.
what the heck? Verse 7.
Yeah, we're
Matthew,
moving,
come
we're
on.
moving around here.
This matches up with John.
John 19 and 18. John 19.
19.
Verse 7?
Verse 7, yeah.
Verse 7.
Oh, the Jewish leaders replied, by our law, he ought to die because he called himself the Son of God.
18. Whom do you seek? They said to these Jews.
The wrong thing. We got the wrong thing here. We'll say it was a different Bible. That's the problem. Yes, John 19, verse 7. The Jews answered him, we have a law, and according to that law, he ought to die because he has made himself the Son of God. Now, the law they're talking about is this Leviticus passage, Leviticus 24, verse 16.
Whoever blasphemes any word.
Yeah, so the question is, how does this apply to Jesus?
They're saying he blasphemed. They're saying he blasphemed the name of the Lord by claiming to be the Son of the Lord.
Right. Yes. And so what should happen to him?
Stoning
Stone him. Yeah, because the Jews didn't
to
crucify,
death.
right? The Jews always stoned. Like if you look at the martyrdom of Stephen, he is stoned to death.
The thing is, they attempted to stone Jesus one other time when he was in the temple, or on the temple grounds. When was that? He came
Oh,
in.
yes, there's a few times. That's right.
Yeah, he came into the temple. He was talking to somebody and saying that he was the son of, not saying directly that he was the son of God, but implying that he was the son of God, implying that he was being led by his father. And the Pharisees and scribes heard it and attempted to stone him. They drove him out to a cliff, but then he was able just to walk through.
Walk through. Yes. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
So what they're saying here is that, okay, according to the Jewish law, right, he ought to be stoned to death. But since they're under Roman rule, they can't do that. And so it's Pilate's responsibility to keep the peace and maintain the local laws, and in that way, kill Jesus. Okay, I'm in John 19, verse 8. When Pilate heard this statement, he was even more afraid. Verse 9, he entered his quarters again and said to Jesus, where are you from? But Jesus gave him no answer. So Pilate said to him, you will not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to release you and authority to crucify you? Jesus answered him, You would have no authority over me at all unless it has been given you from above. Therefore, he who delivered me over to you has the greater sin. So the question is, why in verse 8 is Pilate even more afraid? Why is Pilate more afraid?
I don't know.
Son of God.
A little bit of background. Okay, to the Jewish ears, right? Jesus claiming to be the Son of God would have been like pretending to be the Messiah and blaspheming, right? But to the Roman ear, it had nothing to do with blasphemy, but it placed Jesus in a category called the divine men. These were gifted individuals who were believed to enjoy certain divine powers. And so Pilate here is thinking that maybe Jesus is one of these divine men, and I just had him flogged. So he's even more fearful, right? Okay. Verse 12 of John 19, it says, From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself king opposes Caesar. So when Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out, sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Stone Pavement in Aramaic, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour, 12 o'clock noon. He said to the Jews, Behold your king. They cried out, Away with him, crucify him. Pilate said to them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar. So he delivered him over to them to be crucified. This phrase here, we have no king but Caesar. What's the implications of that? We have no king but Caesar.
Even though they were just trying to get themselves out of, harm's way, they were basically saying, Caesar's our king. He's the one we bow down to. He's
Yes.
the one we obey and listen to. Not God,
Right,
but Caesar.
right.
Caesar's more powerful than God.
Yes, because the king of Israel is supposed to be the Lord. And so saying that we have no king but Caesar is saying that the Lord is not our king. That's one thing. What else?
Enforcing the thing with Pilate being afraid that he is going against the king.
Yes, that's right. They don't want to do that. Tiberius is a suspicious Roman emperor. And if he's suspicious that you are in some way going to try to overthrow him or thwart him, he's going to take you out. It also rejects Jesus' messianic claims, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else's messianic claims. Because if they say there's nobody else but Caesar, well, then that means nobody else can claim to be this Messiah, this King of the Jews.
And we do see while Paul is walking around Asia, passing on the word of Christ, we do see other false Christs claiming to be the king of the Jew.
Yes. Yeah, like Barabbas, right?
Like Barabbas.
Insurrectionists.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, last question. According to the Jews, why would Pilate not be a friend of Caesar? Okay, I need to tell you that friend of Caesar was a technical designation for a group of people that were especially devoted to the emperor. And then at this time, AD 33, you need to be aware that Tiberius the emperor had taken out his second in command, because the second in command was turning into an insurrectionist. But Pilate is a friend of that second in command.
So he's in trouble.
So he could be in big trouble. You're right. Because it wasn't just the second in command. He took out his family, took out his friends, right? And Pilate could be included in there. So, and at this time, there's a economic crisis happening in Rome, much like the 2008 crisis that we experienced. There was real estate problems, agricultural problems. They weren't growing as much crops. There was no money. The banks had shut down funding throughout the empire, in Corinth and in some of the other major places. The bankers were not letting any money out. Even if it was your money, you couldn't get it out. And so there was interest rates were sitting at about 12% at this time if you owed money. And if you owed money, you could lose your collateral. Like if you used your farm as collateral for borrowing, at this time the banks could come in and take your land if you don't make the payment. So all of this stuff is happening during this time, and Tiberius is concerned about what's going on in his empire. So what are the Jews trying to do to Pilate to get him to crucify Jesus?
Well, they're blackmailing.
Yeah.
They're blackmailing him and threatening him. Do this, or you're not a friend of so and so. We'll take it to him, and then you will be one of his subjects of death.
Yes, that's a key point. We'll take it to him. The Jews had in the past sent a group of representatives to Tiberius to complain about Pilate. So this would not be the first time that this would have occurred.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see why Pilate is kind of meek and giving in to the Jews, though he hates Jews. He's probably among the first anti-Semites in history. But he does not want to get into Tiberius's bad books. Not at this time when there's crisis throughout the empire. And so for him not to crucify Jesus means that he is not a devoted follower of Tiberius, because he would be leaving an insurrectionist, right? They think Jesus is an insurrectionist. They'd be leaving him to go free.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
It does.
Yeah?
It
Okay.
does. Makes perfect sense.
So that's what's going on.
He's
80,
a scared little boy.
A lot of these Roman emperors were scared.
There's too much of that do this or we'll do that going on,
That's right.
even now.
Yes.
Any questions, comments, takeaways? Cindy, any takeaway?
Means people that have power, that's it.
Have a lot of power. Okay. Ann, you want to close us in prayer? Yes, not. Mother?
Sure. Lord, we thank you so much for your word, and we thank you for the love that your son had for us, enough that he would suffer the floggings, suffer the crucifixion, so that he could pay for our sins and release us, pardon us, make us whole again. Thank you that he bore the curse on our behalf, so that when the end comes, there's no more curse. The curse will have been gone forever because it was borne by your son. Lord, bless us, be with us, cause us to sense the depths of your love and your concern for us. In Jesus' name, amen.